Welcome to Wawas on Wire. Today we're talking about Mujahid Yusof's recent strong assertions on the political narrative surrounding Malay rights. We really have to jump right into it because what Mujahid Yusof has done here is, well, it's pretty explosive.
It really is. We're talking about the deputy president of Parti Amanah Negara.
And he's come out and basically tried to dismantle this entire narrative, this idea that the Malays are somehow politically or culturally under siege.
He didn't just question it, he called it a political stunt, flat out.
A stunt. So not a genuine concern, but a tactic.
Exactly, and that's what's so strategic. His argument isn't just a simple disagreement. It's designed to pull the rug out from under his rivals.
So if you're a listener, you have to understand, if he can prove this threat isn't real, the opposition's main platform kind of evaporates.
It forces them on a different ground. They'd have to talk about policy, about economics, not just, existential fear.
And that's what we're going to break down. He laid out this systematic case, 5 key points to argue that the real threat isn't to the community.
No. He argues the threat is to a very specific group of political leaders, and that's a huge distinction.
Okay, so let's start where he starts. This central claim that the whole Malays are threatened or Islam is threatened narrative is just a political gimmick.
Yeah, a gimmick. His argument is that it's manufactured to create anger, to create a kind of panic, really.
And that panic then translates into what? Votes?
Votes? Political support. It's a tool. He suggests it's what politicians use when their own influence might be fading.
So it's about political survival.
In his view, yes. The feeling of being threatened doesn't belong to the community. It belongs to the leaders who claim to represent them, but whose power is now being challenged.
That is an incredibly sharp accusation. He's saying they're projecting their own insecurities, their own fear of losing power onto millions of people.
That's the crux of it. It reframes the whole issue. It's no longer a national crisis. It's a personal leadership problem for his opponents.
Okay, so from there, he doesn't just leave it as a political accusation. He moves into the Constitution.
Right. And he has to. For his argument to hold any water, he needs to prove that the foundational guarantees are, solid, unshakable.
So this is where the Malay rulers come into the picture.
This is the pivotal part. He makes 2 key points. First, that the Malays are the pillar of the country's sovereignty, and that pillar is stable.
Okay, stable.
And second, that the federal constitution itself explicitly protects the special position of the Malays. And crucially, that the Malay rulers are the guardians of that status.
And that's the strategic move, isn't it? Bringing in the rulers. Why is that such a high-stakes play?
Because it raises the stakes enormously. The rulers are the constitutional backstop. They're above politics.
Right.
So Mujahid poses this brilliant, if pointed, question. If you claim the Malays are truly threatened, aren't you implicitly suggesting
that the rulers are failing at their job?
Exactly. You're implying that the ultimate guardians are somehow derelict in their duty. It turns a political attack on the government into something much more sensitive.
It's a very clever way to frame it. You're not just arguing with us, you're questioning the entire constitutional structure.
And he even brings in history to back it up. He talks about that moment when the rulers symbolically handed political power to the United Malays National Organization.
The founding party of Malay politics.
Yes. So he's saying, look, if you now claim that everything is under threat, you're questioning the wisdom of the rulers' decisions from decades ago.
Wow.
And even today, he points out that the Yang di Pertuanagon appoints the prime minister, a decision he argues that's always made to ensure the political status of Malays is safe.
See, if the whole system of checks and balances is working, then the narrative of a crisis must be.
It must be manufactured. That's his conclusion.
Okay, that's the legal and historical side. But then he shifts gears, doesn't he? He moves from theory to reality.
Yes, the practical reality check. He basically challenges his opponents. Show me the evidence. Show me where things have actually gotten worse.
And what evidence does he put forward?
Well, first, policy stability. He makes the point that no matter who's been in power, Barisan Nasional, Perikatan Nasional, Pakatan Harapan, the core constitutional protections for Malays have never, ever been eroded. They remain untouched.
That's a strong point, considering the political chaos we've seen, governments changing, coalitions shifting.
Exactly. Through all that turbulence, he argues the fundamental structure has held firm. And then he moves to demographics.
The numbers.
The numbers. He argues against this idea of a community in decline. He points to population growth, birth rates, educational achievement.
So things are actually improving, not declining.
According to his data, yes. He cites things like participation in public universities and the civil service, where Malay representation is very high.
So he lays all that out, a stable constitution, active rulers, growing demographics, and then he just asks the question.
So where exactly is this threat? It's a very blunt, very direct challenge. He's framing it as a phantom threat, something created for political effect.
It really does put his opponents in a bind. They either have to point to a specific policy that's weakened Malay status.
Or they have to admit that the threat is really just about being unhappy with who is currently holding the reins of power.
Which brings us to his final point, which is really the twist at the end.
The final twist. Identifying who is truly feeling threatened.
And in his view, it's not the average person on the street.
Not at all. He says it's the political figures whose entire careers, whose entire authority is built on being the sole representatives of the community.
And he uses the unity government itself as his prime piece of evidence, specifically the role of the United Malays National Organization.
Right. Think about it. The United Malays National Organization was, for decades, the absolute bedrock of Malay political power.
The original guardians, politically speaking.
Exactly. And his logic here is devastatingly simple. The United Malays National Organization is now a partner in the unity government.
So he poses the question.
He asks his rivals in the opposition, if this government was genuinely a threat to the Malays, why on earth would a party like the United Malays National Organization join it?
It would mean they're betraying their entire purpose.
It would. It puts the opposition in an impossible position. Either the threat isn't real, or the United Malays National Organization, their former allies, are traitors to the cause.
It's a rhetorical trap, a very well-constructed one. If you trust the United Malays National Organization, the government is safe. If the government is a threat, then you can't trust the United Malays National Organization.
But we have to be fair here and apply the same logic to him.
Of course.
I mean, if he's accusing his rivals of using rhetoric for political survival, isn't this entire very polished refutation also a political maneuver?
Absolutely. He is, after all, part of the unity government. He needs it to seem stable. He needs it to appear legitimate.
So while his facts about the Constitution and the demographics might be correct, the timing and the delivery, it's all deeply political. It's a strategic move to shift the conversation.
Away from identity and fear and back towards policy and governance where maybe they feel more confident.
I think to sum up Mujahid's position, it's a really sophisticated way. He's combining hard facts, the law, the data, with institutional arguments about the rulers.
All to neutralize an emotional claim.
Precisely. To force the entire debate onto his turf. The turf of logic and established facts.
What he's really doing is asking the public, asking you, to separate the rhetoric from the reality, to distinguish between what's said to win votes and what the nation's actual structure is.
And that's the challenge for everyone, isn't it? To hold all politicians to that same standard, whether they're shouting warnings or giving calm rebuttals.
It begs the question, what happens when emotional claims are forced to stand up to constitutional logic? A fascinating thought. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.